when our body, our mind, our emotions, our soul, if you will, or our energy is on point and getting better and better, everything else around us improves because the outside world is really a reflection of our inside world.
Are you ready to transform your life? This is a no-nonsense show helping immigrants like you create generational wealth, even while working full-time. Get ready to take notes. Here's your host, Saket Jain.
Welcome back, Migrate to Wealth listeners. Today, I'm going to talk to Nate Zeleznick. I'm thinking I said the last name correct. I met Nate at a conference that I think most of the audience have listened to me talk about money and you. It really was less about money, more about you, but that's okay. I can see why they called it money and you, just the same reason I call this show as Migrate to Wealth, because it brings people in and drives people in. But just as the content of our course is focused not only on wealth, but really about holistic wealth, which surpasses way beyond money. It's your mind, your body, your relationships, your purpose, and your money. But money is important, but money is not the first thing. Money is an enabler for all the other things that you do. And that's really what we've stayed true to. And when I met Nate there, he and I were in the same cohort, I really, really liked what I heard about Nate, his story, his energy, and his focus more on creating that internal environment that enables you to create the external environment to your maximum potential. Doesn't mean you're going to be creating another Bill Gates energy level or an Elon Musk. You're going to be creating your best potential, whatever that is. It hopefully surpasses any of the guys and gals that you have imagined and ever met, but it's going to be your maximum potential. And I think for me, as a human being, if we don't live to somebody else's potential, that's okay. But if we can't live to our own potential, our maximum potential, that's a shame, right? That's really why I thought having a conversation with Nate is going to be super powerful. His entire life is dedicated in learning techniques, and then you'll hear his story. He's one of the very few ones who actually can give this technique to masses. The abstraction piece really is what was initially meant for royalty. Now Nate's offering it to masses, right? That's really the context I want you to keep in mind. That if you have a question, well, this was tucked away in secrecy to be only shared with royalty. So if that was a reason, there was a reason why it was happening, and it was a very successful process. But so focus is going to be for this show not necessarily how to create money right away, but how to create internal harmony with your external purpose, and the money is going to be the byproduct. That's what I would just want you to keep that perspective in mind as we speak on this episode. Nate, welcome to the show, my brother.
Saket, thank you so much for having me. And hello to everyone watching and listening out there. I'm excited to be here for all of you.
Nate, I know we're going to have a very short amount of time here for all that you have learned and accomplished in your life. But why should somebody listen to this show? What do you think for this episode with you? Sure. What is it going to give to them that their life's going to be altered for good?
Well, it all starts with our perspective. And I like to always focus on what is real. So for people who are in the money game, who are actively business owners, they are very successful people. Let's not beat around the bush. Let's just not. Most people, they want to deny it, but when they take a good hard look, they know they're burning the candle at both ends. So they've got a blowtorch in the middle. And we know that our stress, that our internal environment can cause disease. In fact, over 90% of all disease is caused by stress, according to the CDC. And the thing is a lot of people think that they're going to be happy by amassing wealth or doing the things and having the trophy house or the car or the wife or whatever. And when people are on their deathbed, no one ever says, geez, I really wish I would have made $5 more. Oh, I really wish that I wouldn't have spent more time with my kids, with my family. I wish that I would have been more angry and more disgruntled and more stressed out. And geez, while I'm here in the hospital and I'm suffering, this was all worth it. All of that suffering and the stress and the sacrifice, it was totally worth it to be ending up right here, because in the end, we just need to realize we're all going to have the same end to this story in one way or the other. We're going to have a different ending, yes, but ultimately the epilogue is the same. You're either in the ground or you're ashes. And what we want to do, so why people should listen to me is because I have been graciously blessed by a royal family in Indonesia to bring forth what I can only explain it as the most powerful, transformative, and liberational breathwork, meditation, mindfulness, fitness course that I've ever seen, by miles beyond anything else I've ever seen, to the point where over 1 million people have been trained in Indonesia over the past 50 years. And every branch of their military has been using this for 4 decades, including their special forces soldiers, because just on a physical level alone, the stamina, focus, ability to de-stress, the vitality, virility. Oh yeah, there's that component too, which when that goes away, it doesn't matter how much money you have, you wish you trade it all to have that stuff.
Yeah.
For that part of your life. It goes through the roof in literally just a few minutes a day, but it's not like anything else out there. So it gives people especially who are on the forefront of technology, the forefront of their own human technology, fitness, nutrition, who really give a damn about their health, honestly.
Yeah.
The opportunity to make big changes very quickly in a way that nothing else does. And so really, that's honestly why I think that people really gravitate toward what I'm doing. And now I'm taking this from the 16th century method that is just life-changing, and I'm mixing in biohacking, vibroacoustic technology, EEG brain training, because when our body, our mind, our emotions, our soul, if you will, or our energy is on point and getting better and better, everything else around us improves, because the outside world is really a reflection of our inside world.
Beautiful, beautiful. Nate, let's talk a little bit about your journey before we go forward here. How did you encounter this?
Yeah.
Like how did you put yourself in a position where you've been trained as a practitioner first, then as a trainer?
Sure.
If this was so hidden, how did you get exposed to it?
It all started back when I was about 5 years old. So growing up in a small town here in northern Utah, not being of the predominant religion, I was severely bullied almost every single day, including during the summer. I mean, the bullies would come to my house to kick my ass. So from about the age of 5 until the age of 16, I had a relentless physical, emotional, and mental bullying happening there, as well as at the time, my mother had some chemical issues in her body. So she was highly abusive. And so I was safe nowhere. And around 11, I started becoming suicidal. Every single day, I just wanted to not be on the planet anymore. And I credit myself with saving myself, because at around 12, somewhere in there, I started having conscious out-of-body experiences. And I know that sounds woo to people that are like, what's that? But the out-of-body state is a non-local function of consciousness. It's a phenomenon where we are not, in neuroscience, we know we're not in our body. Our consciousness is not located in the body. And the CIA has been training people for decades how to do remote viewing and out-of-body experiences to spy on the Soviets during the Cold War. And this has been talked about for thousands of years. Bilocation, remote viewing, out-of-body experiences. So that started happening to me spontaneously. And I didn't know what was going on. I would just float out of my body. I would see myself when I was trying to go to sleep. And I'd be able to go out of my house and travel. I'd have these great experiences. And sometimes I just snap back into my body. But that really opened up my eyes to the fact that I'm more than my physical body, and so are you. And most people have out-of-body experiences when they sleep and they travel, they dream. If you've ever had that experience where you just jerk back awake, it's an interesting phenomenon where every single nerve in your body fires at once. You can't do that on purpose. So my hypothesis on that is the astral body coming back into the physical body. And so we're starting to be able to measure these types of energies as well, that we're not just a physical meat suit. We're more than that. So this started happening when I was around 12, and it helped keep me on the planet. But around age 16, I started martial arts training because I always wanted to be a ninja and a Jedi. I had to be a ninja Jedi. Come on, who doesn't want to be?
Why not? Yeah.
Right. Well, and the thing is when you're a kid growing up in a small farm town, the only place to practice martial arts is on your brothers. And they didn't appreciate that because I was the oldest. But when I finally started training, what I found was it was great fun. And you had sparring and weapons, forms, and no internal aspect, though. No mental, no meditation, no mindfulness. That was not even talked about. Strip mall martial arts just don't really do that.
Wait, Nate, I'm so sorry to interrupt. I want to make a few connections here to make sure that we can follow the story. So you went from being suicidal to having an out-of-body experience or experiences that changed your mind. How did you move from there to martial arts?
Well, I always wanted to learn the martial arts ever since I saw Star Wars and I saw ninja movies. And when I was
got it. So these were not that event. The outer body experience didn't drive that. That was already there.
That was so already there.
Okay. Now it makes sense. There. Now it makes sense. I just wanted to figure out the connection between the two aspects. Okay.
I ran into a friend. I was 19, right by the bowl in Wall Street when the bell rang and everybody came out. I bumped into a guy I went to high school with right next to the bowl. I'm like, what are the chances? I mean, trillions, 1 in trillions, right? The odds are 1 in trillions, but the chances are 100% because it's what happened. So what happened with me is I really wanted that inner power. I wanted that meditation component, but I didn't know where to get it. And so I ordered a course out of Black Belt Magazine. And it was a chintzy little manual with a VHS tape. The manual was total BS, but the tape showed Indonesian martial arts. And I had never seen Indonesian martial arts. I knew I had some shirts from there, but I didn't know much about the country. Turns out that there are over 700 different recognized systems of martial arts in the Indonesian archipelago. And when I saw what these people could do, it was beyond anything I'd ever seen, imagined, including in movies. To an extent. There were people who were not breaking bricks and little boards, breaking stacks of steel this thick. They were breaking iron. They were breaking brick, like stone, and bricks, like poured cement bricks that are this thick. It was insane. And they were just barely touching them, big smile on their face, no anger, no rage, no yelling. They were just having a great time. And I thought that was really cool. But right after that on the tape, it showed people in these amazing, cool outfits. I mean, they had white tunics, red neckline, a red belt, and black pants. Everybody wore the same thing. And some of these people were able to see with their eyes closed, bandaged, taped, blindfolded, including people who were blind with their eyes white as a sheet. And they were able to do things like drive cars through traffic in Jakarta, like not a closed course, like traffic, normal road. They were able to fight full contact, blindfolded. It had military people who could shoot targets out of people's hands. And then it showed blind people who could read printed material. And
these people never could see?
The blind people, no. But the other people, they were blindfolded, and they've been training in this certain technique that I didn't know anything about it. So I was like, that's amazing, because it was a documentary in Indonesian. So I don't speak Indonesian to this day very well, and I definitely didn't at that time. But I understood 2 words, merpati putih. Now, merpati putih sounds funny in English, but in Indonesian, it means white dove. So it's a symbol of peace and justice for all of humanity, which is amazing for a martial art to have that instead of like the red tiger, black dragon, scorpions that are like fighting animals. Doves aren't fighting. They're all about peace. So I thought that was very interesting. And the next day, after I saw these blindfolded people, I was really skeptical, but I was also tuning in and tapping into wow, what if that's really real? And the next day I watched a blind woman trying to cross the street almost get killed in front of me. Her dog let her face first into the light pole. And I just had this spiritual command. It was like bang right there, like a lightning bolt in the chest. You have to find those Indonesian people. You have to help her. I'd never met a blind person. I had no connection to the blind community.
Yeah.
I couldn't say why, other than my spirit or my soul, God, however you want to phrase this, my higher self, part of me was telling me you have to find her right now, find those people to help her. And so I went on a mission, Socket. I went on a mission to find those people. Now, this is in the dial-up days of the internet. So I went to the library because they had the high-speed internet. It was like almost a full megabyte a second. It was incredible fast. And so I did. I tracked these people down. I was able to understand Merpati Putih, finally found them. And I brought over the very first contingent of Merpati Putih practitioners to the United States to do demonstrations at my alma mater, Weber State University, at the Utah Schools for the Deaf and Blind, and also for the Indonesian ambassador in Washington, D.C. It was great. And, they had never trained a non-Indonesian. It was forbidden up until this point. And so I was just doing this to help them. It was like, I have to help her, that blind person, and all blind people. And as I learned more and I got to see blind people who could do this in my house, it was really emotional, knowing that, wow, we are able to do way more than what society, our parents, our churches, or even our own self-limiting beliefs have taught us we can do. Jedis are real. Flat out, Jedis are real. Can everybody become a Jedi? No, but look at Star Wars. How many people became Jedis? Very fraction of a fraction of a fraction of a percent. They were taught from birth, right? And so when I got to see this for myself, when they were going to leave, when they first got here, there was an Indonesian gentleman at the airport, and he came up to me and said, "Hey, my name's Heru. I'm a doctor from Indonesia. One of the 11th generation royal family heirs to Merpati Putih is one of my best friends, and I'm going to hang out with you guys for the week." And I'm like, "Great, good to meet you." When the team was leaving, the chairman of Merpati Putih, of the whole organization, he looked at me and he said, "Nate, Heru's going to be your trainer." And I was like, "Wait a minute, what?" He says, "Yes, we're going to allow you to be the first non-Indonesian person to learn this. We love what you're doing, what you stand for." I talked with the royal heirs and they've given permission. So I started training with him the next week. And a few weeks after that, one of my younger brothers joined me. And together, we were put on a very accelerated, brutal training program to take us through the ranks faster than anybody ever had before. It was full-on special forces training because our trainer just happened to be a former special forces trainer for Merpati Putih. He is still in Indonesia. So that's how we got started. And then for 20 years, we went to Indonesia numerous times for long training sabbaticals to test over there, advance our rank, to train other people, to work with the special forces, to learn directly from the royal family, and to bring back that knowledge. And we owned one of the largest martial arts and meditation schools in the country. And then in 2020, March 13th, 2020, everything changed when the pandemic shut the world down. And a lot of people don't know this, but in the martial arts field, over half of all the martial arts schools in the country closed permanently within 6 months. And that was about 7,800 schools, according to the industry publications. So ours was one of those that did not survive this. It was, as we remember, it was the Twilight Zone. And so we pivoted to training people in that blindfolded vision and not doing the martial arts anymore. And we started doing that in a seminar format for people to come in to train that. So that lasted for a little while, and then for a couple of years. And then November 2022, my brother and I, if you could just imagine this, if anybody out there has ever had the honor of working with your family members, you also know it can be very trying as well. And especially when you have powerful, strong warrior mentality people who have very different visions. Sometimes great things need to dissolve in order to have even better things evolve. And that's what happened with us in November 2022. We decided to split our business, and I decided to really incorporate this 21st century tech with the Merpati knowledge. And he still continues doing what we were doing before. And I still do that, but I wanted to add so much more. And so that's why my integrated ascension method, or the IAM for short, which is my business now, that's why it's integrated ascension method, because my goal is to help people ascend. I don't take anybody there. Nobody can. And anybody that says, I will lead you to the mountain, no, they won't. They're full of shit. Sorry, but it's not true. You're the medicine. You are infinite, unlimited, eternal being. You have all the intelligence there. But having the right tools to help you get there is the most important part. But then it is up to each and every one of us to pull ourselves up by our bootstraps to make those.
Why should somebody aspire to ascend? Maybe the better question is, what is ascension?
That's a good question. So I'll put it this way. Ascension is moving to a better feeling place, a place of more peace, harmony, love, and joy. Many people don't want to suck it. The majority of people on the planet don't. They're stuck in their shame, their apathy, their grief, their ego, their anger, their, I'm tempted to say pride. They want that. That's where because they don't see that brighter future of shedding all of those issues, letting those go, and living that stress-free, happy, beautiful life where you're happy for no reason. They don't see that. And that's okay. That's not their path on this journey this time. The people that I work with are the people who do see that brighter future. They're the ones who want to, make a huge difference in their own, as we talked about right before this, fun span. They don't want to just live. They want to live and have fun and have a great health span. They want to experience everything that life can give them and be aware and conscious while they do it. And that's something that a lot of people, if they only knew how freaking fast it is to come back into conscious presence and awareness right here, right now, using a very easy technique that I actually have in my free class, the gift that I'm going to have for everybody here, they would be doing that much more often. And I can't even tell you, I was just training a group of people this past weekend, and these are very high level, high producing, like world disruptor, changing the future of humanity kind of people. And they're so stressed out most of the time. And they have all these business deals. They're owning, 25 businesses. Oh, that's great. How much is that worth? If you're sick in the hospital, if you're dead, you can't move, you don't have a good connection with your friends, your family, how much is all of that worth at all? What are you going to take with you? Guarantee it's not the Ferrari. Guarantee it's not the Ferrari. So it doesn't mean don't have a Ferrari. But what it means is asking ourselves these two important questions. Where am I? The answer is always here. Doesn't matter where on the planet you are, you're always here. That's going to help you be present. Second one, what time is it? No matter what time zone you're in, it is always now. So if you ask yourself, where am I? I'm here. What time is it? I'm right now. That will help you bring yourself back to the present moment and enjoying where you're at, what you're doing, who you're with, and who you're being right now. And so it's only for the people who want to, quote unquote, ascend and take themselves away from those lower, stickier, more, I guess you'd say, quote unquote, painful feelings and emotions. That's what ascension, for me, that's what that looks like.
Nate, in your experience, and I kind of know the answer to that, but I would love to hear your perspective. Why would somebody not want to ascend?
The
way you paint the picture, right? And the way we're talking about the show for last 160 episodes now, almost, we're trying to say life by design, life by conscious choices, right? But let's hear your perspective on why would Saket resist ascension?
Yeah, there's many reasons why Saket or anybody else, the 8 billion people on the planet, would resist this. First thing I think, obviously, is programming. So if you're, say, brought up in I'm here in the land of the Mormon church. Yeah. So if you are a Mormon housewife and you've been taught that you should be barefoot and pregnant in the kitchen, and that if you don't, that you're bad and that you're going to go to hell, fear control modality. that says, well, if I ascend, I'm actually going to later on descend. That's one example. Other ones, the product of our environment. So if you're a gang member in Compton, well, you want to be like everybody else around you because that is safety.
Yeah.
If you ascend, you're no longer going to be safe, or you're not going to be included with those people that kept you safe during those parts of your life. There's that. There are also other things where we do come in with a I would not say predetermined level of consciousness. So anybody out there who's interested in psychology, muscle testing, in levels of consciousness and this ascension, I would recommend checking out the work by Dr. David Hawkins, MD, PhD. Dr. David Hawkins, starting with his book, Power versus Force. So in there, he talks about this level of consciousness that can be calibrated using muscle testing, the way that your chiropractor would use to determine where in your body you're imbalanced or need to be adjusted. And in there, it's a scale from 0 to 1,000. It's an arbitrary scale, but he's like, okay, for the most advanced people that have ever lived on the planet, Buddha, Jesus, Krishna, and Zoroaster, those 4 avatars, if they were at a level of 1,000, where would other people fall? And took decades with tens of thousands of people calibrating these things to find out and make the scale. So at the level of 200, it's the level where you move from force down below, which is where you are sucking energy from your environment in. These are things like apathy, shame, grief, pain, the more negative feeling emotions, the hard, sticky, painful, contrasting ones. At the level of 200, which is courage, and above, you start being an energy producer to your environment. So when somebody steps into that courage and they're afraid, but they do something anyway, they're starting to broadcast more energy, more information, more inspiration to the things around them. But then you move into things like reason and love and joy and peace, and then into enlightenment and the ineffable, which can't be understood by the 99.99999999999% of all humans ever will never understand what those are in their current lifetime. Because with this calibrations, these looking at the human entire population, something like 78% of people on the planet are at level 2 or below the level of 200. They are still in force. They're not actually stepping into their own power, but it is possible to raise. And when I say ascension, raise up through these levels of consciousness. So when people get to the the level of pride, well, that means at least they're starting to, that's so much better than anger and so much better than sadness, where it's a vortex. At least at pride, we're starting to produce more. We're starting to do more. We're starting to be feeling that pride in what we're doing, who we are, and at least start making some other people's lives better, including our own. But the one that's really scary is shame. That's the lowest vibration, lowest energy of all of them, where people, the only thing lower than shame is death of the physical body, according to the scale. And so Dr. Hawkins worked with tens of thousands of people all across the globe, very well lectured, very well read. He worked in mental hospital. I mean, he's a brilliant man. He was brilliant when he was here. And, granted, there are some things maybe I don't agree with, but overall, it makes a lot of sense. And so Power versus Force by David Hawkins. If you're interested in this stuff, I would recommend everybody out there go pick that book up. If nothing else, you'll have a much more interesting perspective on the people in your own life, as well as your own base level of reactionary participation in life. Yeah. So that's, for me, that's what that means, is to keep getting better, more peaceful, more joyous, more prosperous. And prosperous is important. Money is not below the level of 200. Money is okay. Money's good. Yeah. It's what you do with it. It's just a tool, right? So there's nothing enlightened. There's nothing spiritual. There's nothing great about being broke and living in a monastery. There doesn't have to be. It's funny. People used to say that in the martial arts. A lot of people would expect you're a martial arts teacher. You should teach people for $20 in your garage. You shouldn't charge for knowledge. And that's the thing. What a lot of people don't get is even if I charged nothing, there would still be people that would complain because they couldn't afford the bus token to get there. Second thing is, at the time, the Shaolin Temple in Hunan in China, one of the most spiritual martial arts places you can go. At the time, they were averaging about $18 million in revenue a year. These spiritual Buddhist monks were making
gazillionaires in today's terms.
Making 8 figures right there, right? So the thing is there's nothing wrong with that. It's what we do with it. It's how we do it and how we prioritize it. If we're just prioritizing money over everything else in all of our relationships, and especially our relationship to ourselves and what's going on inside of us with our own beingness, that's a zero-sum game, as we talked about in Money and You. There's a loser.
Yeah.
And it's always going to be you. It's always going to be you, because at the end of the road, if you don't live as long and as healthy, as happy as you could have, you lost.
So I think I love the conversation, because this is how I have built myself up. Those of you who've listened to the show, I lived in monastery. I went to the other side of the road. I sold everything and moved to a monastery because I thought money is not what I wanted to chase. But I quickly realized there is a path where both of them can merge. And it all depends upon what, and I'm not saying selling up everything and living like a monk is a bad thing. It's probably a right path for somebody. It wasn't the right path for me and my wife. And we chose to come out of the monastery, and we're like, we have some gifts, and let's use that gift to create more impact, right? I really think sometimes that, and for those of you who have anyone in your life who's taken that path, or you're looking at that path, this is not to belittle that. I think becoming a monk is a very selfish game, because it's all about you. Unless you're creating that piece outside as well. It's really, I want to focus inward, and that's all I want to care about. But I think if you try to figure out a more selfless act, is going to be, how can I abide the principles of monkhood and then create so much prosperity in the world that impact is going to be immeasurable, right? If there's a way you can create the two, and I think there's a way to merge the two. I know there's a way to merge, because that's what we've been doing. That's what Nate's been doing. That's what people at Money and You've been doing, is to create that, merge that world of, it's not this or that, it's this and that.
And
right? But the problem there is, I believe, the problem there is, and I have a very small sample size, and most of it is self-reflection, is that prioritization of money happens in sequence. That, let me prioritize money before I prioritize happiness. Let me prioritize my surroundings. Let me buy a Ferrari. Then I would rather be, most of us, I would rather be sad and unhappy in a Ferrari. No, you don't. You don't want to, right? It's basically just saying that, let me have my Ferrari, and then I'll listen to you, Saket, or Nate, Saket, or whatever, right? And that's okay. If that's what you want to do, as long as you're truthful about that. I'm going to ignore Nate and Saket today, because I really, really want to fulfill this material desire. And that's, as long as you're doing it consciously. But if you're doing it because Ferrari is going to give you the ultimate happiness, most of us, if you reflect on our life, at 18 or maybe at 10, we didn't know Ferrari. We thought the bicycle would make us happy. At probably 13, 14, when hormones were feeling it, that partner will give you happiness, right? And for those of you married or have partners, you realize that that's not the happiness you were hoping for. It's a different kind of happiness. It's a lot of sacrifice, a lot of growth, a lot of work, right? So if you start looking at your life, today you may want Ferrari, but 20 years ago, 15 years ago, 40 years ago, you just wanted a stupid bicycle. And you thought your world's going to change. And it did for a moment. It did. But then it didn't. And what I think what Nate is trying to talk to you, what this show is all about, is that, look, there's a completely different way of looking at it. If you take and step inward, which doesn't mean you have to give away all your possessions, which does not mean you think making money is bad. Now, you may realize the way you're making the money may not be most conducive to you. That's possible. I say that to everybody. Like, you may be thinking that you're running a casino. I'm making a casino as an example. I'm not, again, belittling anyone's profession and their choices of making money. You're running a casino and you're like, no, I want to become a teacher. That shift may happen. And that's not a bad shift, to be honest. Like a friend of mine called me the other day. He's like, Saket, well, if I listen to all these things that you've been talking about and all that stuff, I'd have to sell all my businesses. I'm like, you know what? Let me give you a perspective. The sheer fact that you're thinking that you may have to sell something that you're doing is not aligned with who you are. So forget about listening to me. You should listen to yourself. Like, why are you afraid of you have to sell everything? If you're afraid of selling everything, that means you're prioritizing your internal compass alignment to the material successes that you've had. And now you're creating this fear that, because of something else, an external conversation or more introspection, you would have to sell everything. And then is it worth it? These conflicts may be happening in you as well. It did happen to me as well when I sold everything and moved to a monastery. That conflict happened, right? Like, this is better life or that is better life. I think the only way to figure out is have someone like Nate in your corner. Let me not be a guide, but let him put some flashlight on some areas of darkness in your life. That's all. If you like what you see, continue seeing it. If you don't, you always have the choice to go back to where you were. Always. So the only thing is going to be an experimentation, right? Experiment is the only way to figure out whether something that you and me and Nate have been talking for the last 30 minutes, is it worth even exploring? Yeah. And that's why I love what Nate has created. He's created a free masterclass to give you a glimpse into what's possible in future if you choose this path. And Nate's path is not the only path, right? Nate is a path and it works for somebody. But I'm not saying become Nate's follower either. That's not the message I always give. But Nate can probably expose you to the path that can lead you to another Nate with who you're more aligned to. And it's free. For those of you who are money conscious and who are daily budgeting, it's free. The only thing is asking for your time. And if this conversation gave away something, this guy is passionate about what he's doing. And I don't get any commission from his free class. It's free. So I would be more than happy if you had a conversation with Nate, attended his masterclass, and let me know how good was it. I know Nate's energy. I know what he's capable of. I've interacted with him for 3 days in a place where I was crying like a baby. So there's already vulnerable spaces, right? We've seen probably each other's worst in terms of vulnerability. So I would say that. But I think, Nate, you also have a program that if somebody feels they're ready to leap into, I'm giving out the name of your program, they're ready to leap into the next step and buy the masterclass. Can you talk a little bit about that program as well?
I'll do one, this and.
Perfect. I love that.
To be either or, it can be both. So just to break down, my masterclass is a 7-part series, my full masterclass. Now the free class is an energy shielding and also perfect breath class. So no matter what, get my free class and you will be able to move yourself into quiet, calm, lower your stress levels within just a couple minutes. It's almost immediate. People absolutely love it. I've got so many people, it is their daily must do. Then my full masterclass is a 7-part series where you learn how to relieve pain in your body through different types of mobility you've probably never done before, through different exercises, different kinds of breath work that are not really like any other breath work that you're going to find out there. And then more importantly is how to start to sense, feel, flow, and project our own energy, because we are energetic beings. We understand this. We understand through physics. Physics alone says there is no matter. Everything is simply light that is phasing in and out of reality every septillionth of a second, that we're only feeling and seeing and perceiving this in order to have this experience. So we're creating it with our mind. Big, deep discussion. We won't go there. But in my masterclass, I actually touch upon that, as well as a refreshing exercise on how to take your energy from a 0 to a 10, 5 to a 10, anytime you want in 2 minutes or less. And it works 100% of the time, unless you're driving. Not safe to do driving. So that's the masterclass. But then the program that Saket was mentioning is my LEAP program, or my Life Force Energy Ascension Protocol. The LEAP program is the Marpati Putti hard style, hypoxic breath holding, energy generation breath work that only Merpati Putti has. I've studied for the past 25 years all over the world in different breathwork systems. It's not Wim Hof. It's not holotropic. It's not 5D breathwork. It's not pranayama. It's not kundalini. This stands alone. It is very unique. There are some similar veins, but the results that it gets for people in a short amount of time on so many levels is just mind-blowing. And hats off to the Javanese kings who created this, because they really came upon something magical in a scientific way. So that's the LEAP program. And that one is, put it this way, I've had people's long COVID symptoms, they reported them going away within 10 minutes. Asthma, I've had almost a 100% reversal of asthma for the past 25 years for people who do this type of breath work. It's unique. It's hard. It's for change makers, not for change talkers. But for people who are listening or watching this, who are leaders, who are CEOs or executives, they are working moms. You are leaders in your own field, whatever that might be, your managers, you're an influencer, you're a professional athlete, military. If you like using this, that you've been gifted, this amazing vessel, and you want it to last as long as possible, have as much fun as possible, be as strong, vital, have as much stamina as you can, the LEAP program, no matter what you do, no matter what you believe, if you're an atheist, this will work. If you're devoted to a religion, this will work, because you have a body. As long as you have a body, it will work. If you don't, I can't really. Yeah, that was a tricky one. But this is something that everybody, and the thing is, it's worth investing. It is worth investing, because if you think wellness is expensive, you should try illness.
Yeah. What do they say, man? They say something that, I'm probably butchering it up. A wealthy man wants everything, but a sick man only wants one thing.
One thing.
That's it. Health. They don't care about money at that point.
Yeah. I used to have a comic up on a little tack board in my school for 20 years. And it's a doctor talking to his patient. And he's patient's up on the bench sitting there, and the doctor's got a clipboard. He says, okay, well, you can work out for an hour a day or be dead for 24 hours a day. Which fits your schedule better?
I like that. See, that's very powerful. Very powerful when you say something like that. Yeah. It's all about the choice, right? What you make. So thank you again, Nate, for saying that. I know there's a discount for your LEAP program as well, because it does cost some money. Yeah. Can you talk about the discount code as well?
Absolutely. So when you go to my website, I think I have one of the sexiest websites that I could have ever gotten as a breath worker and meditation health coach. My website is iampure.energy.
Love that.
Because we are in
yeah.
So iampure.energy, and then under courses you go to LEAP, and then or masterclass. And if you use the coupon code SAKET, SAKET 10, you get 10% off right away for anything.
And that's Saket, my first name, S as in Sam, Apple, Carrie, Edward, Tom, number 1010.
Yep, Saket.
Take advantage of it, guys, and gals, or whatever you identify as anymore. We're like 75 genders now. I can't keep track of them. So whatever you identify as doesn't matter. Take advantage of this program, of this offer. Nate, I really believe in it. I wouldn't have brought Nate on the show if I didn't think he could make a difference in somebody's life. So do yourself a favor, explore it. At least go to the free masterclass, if nothing else. And if you think you're ready to jump to the next level, and do all of them, doesn't matter. Or you can go directly to LEAP. No one's preventing you. You don't need Nate's permission to go to LEAP. LEAP's available. Nate, any parting comments that you think the audience will benefit from that we haven't talked about yet?
First of all, just a reminder, where am I? What time is it? Asking those two questions will help your stress immeasurably. So we're not worried about what's in the past that we can't change, or what's happening and what may happen in the future that's not even here. Just getting back to what we're doing right here, right now, and breathing. Your breath, you came in with an inhale, you're going to leave with an exhale. And in between, it is our most powerful ally for longevity, for stress relief, for our own inner power and awareness, and our energy overall. So breathe on purpose, be aware, be conscious, and have a great now and day on purpose.
Hey, thank you, buddy. We really appreciate that. And for all your listeners, if you're listening to this part, thank you for sticking with us. Without your listenership, this episode or this podcast, or my purpose of sharing the knowledge wouldn't have been possible. So thank you for allowing me to be of service to you. And Nate, thank you for coming on the show. And I know you're busy and you're starting a few different offerings right now, but really, really appreciate you sharing yourself with our audience. And I'm really hoping some of them would be able to benefit from what you're offering. Thank you again.
Thank you so much.
If you got value from this episode, you might consider sharing this content with a friend. But most importantly, be sure to take action on what you've learned. One way you can take the next step is to connect directly with Saket on an investor call. That link is waiting for you in the show notes below.